Yeah, the music business plays this Jedi mind trick on you where the whole thing's set up to be rapacious and take advantage of your weakness. If you get success and you have leverage, they'll get out of your way because you're making them a lot of money. But the minute you're not making them as much money, then they step in and they start playing these Jedi mind tricks on you. We know what to do. You know, the public's going to forget about you. I mean, I've heard all these things like, you know, this kind of weird, like, yeah, you're in the room, but, you know, we're the arbiter of whether you can stay in the room. They do these 360 deals where it's like,
right.
If you get a perfume deal, if you, like your whole world,
they own you.
We own a piece of your whole world. And fame is such a great quotient in American life now that you can see where kids would trade fame and be willing to give away like the profit part. Look no further than the deals that the record labels cut with the streaming services. They got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music. But as Spotify and the other streaming services raise up in their equity position, the labels benefit. So the labels pimped out their own artist to take a greater equity position in a rising business.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives. And he's saying, well, we can't take a chance on this because it's just simply, that's not what the kids really want, and I know. You know, and they got that attitude. And the day you get rid of that attitude and get back to, who knows, take a chance, you know, that entrepreneurial spirit where even if you don't like or understand what the record is that's coming in the door, the person who is in the executive chair may not be the final arbiter of taste of the entire population.
I don't know if most people have seen long-form contracts. They're insane, and there's all these little things thrown in. It's kind of like legislating, you know, legislature for a government. They put up this big issue, but underneath that issue, there's like 17 other little laws that they threw in that they're not talking about. So when you say yes to this one thing, you're actually saying yes to like 45 other things.
There's a worse one. They used to have damage fees with digital downloads. Digital downloads, like at first they were doing that, like they just trying to get away with murder, you know, just like, let's leave it in there, let's see if the lawyer sees it kind of thing.
Yeah, Metallica is a big exception. But a lot of metal bands you've heard of that you consider very successful metal bands are in situations where they need to diversify. I think the idea, that we all had as kids, we're going to make it, and our one band that we're in is going to make us all this money and be our sole source of income. I think that's gone for the most part, unless you're very, very lucky. That's not the case anymore.
For younger bands that don't have the draw that we do, it's incredibly difficult. It really is. Sure. For bands that don't understand or that don't fully take advantage of how the machine actually works, it's incredibly difficult. Every band needs to really pay attention to what their record contract says. They look at what their royalty rate is. If you realize you're getting 0.07 cents for every stream, and your contract only says that you get 15 points on the record after you've recouped everything.
There's a lot of zeros after that decimal.
Exactly. So it just keeps on being reduced and reduced and reduced and reduced, and you have to really pay attention to it. You have to negotiate, you have to hardball, you have to, and you have to try and improvise and adapt and overcome. I've said that a million times.
I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work, I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise, and they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave, I just want to, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. It shouldn't be a situation where they own the album or the work. We're talking about intellectual copyright. If they're going to be indeed a delivery service, then that's fine. But Even FedEx doesn't say that they own the thing that they ship.
When I first started, I came into it with such a sense of idealism that that music was ultimately, which it is, an expression of your soul. 2 months into my first professional thing, I realized that it's a really ugly industry, like any industry would be. I'm sure logging or any industry is ugly when you start getting into the money of it. But music, in a way, more so, because it's monetizing something that is your passion.
I'm an independently owned artist. I kept my publishing. All the things that I could have done smart, believe it or not, I learned from street level in what I call bar none, the music business. I have some great friends, but bar none is the sleaziest business in the world. It's a business where there's 50 ways to get rich and rock the world, and there's 50 ways to get screwed from just one incident.
The music industry is a joke. Every band that they signed, they tried to make sound like the last band to perpetuate this myth of that's what music should be. That bit them in the ass, because now we're down to watching literally America's best fucking singer or Dancing with Singers or whatever the fuck reality shit they got going as our source of popular music. But we still don't get fucking paid for anything we do, and we travel around town to town hoping for scraps of food and shit.